Welcome to Talking Tactics, a show about insights and the results they ignite. I'm Sophania Stevenson, a brand strategist and cultural analyst in the wonderful world of marketing. And every other week, I dig into the aha moments that changed everything for a higher education marketer. Each episode of Talking Tactics starts with an insight, following it from observation to action that created measurable results. We're talking about the breakthrough moments that happen with scrappy resources, and sometimes we'll even explore the tactics that, crashed and burned, because there's also value in trial and error. Your next innovative idea might be hiding in your data, your hallway conversations, or your own gut instinct. So let's get to it. Welcome to my first official episode as host of Talking Tactics. I am so excited for this episode today, and honestly, I couldn't think of a better person to also bring high energy along with some amazing tactics to share. So when South Louisiana Community College decided to roll out their new brand, they said, forget the press conference. We're going to throw the ultimate block party instead. And spoiler alert, it has worked so well, they're still riding the momentum of that party over a year later. So grab your party hat, or, if you're like me and you got big hair, a visor. We'll be talking about visors and big hats. It'll all make sense. Hang in there with me. And let's get into how South Louisiana Community College proved that sometimes the best marketing strategy is simply knowing how to throw one heck of a party. And that's why I'm joined today by Anne Falgout, the Director of Strategic Communications with South Louisiana Community College. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited for this conversation because, one, you all are like in the best place in the US and you guys have the best food. And then two, the tactic that we're going to talk about today is just so fun. And as someone who has been a part of a number of rebrands, whether it be education, higher education, or even like not education at all, I can honestly say I have never seen someone at the top of their list say the number one tactic we're going to use for this brand rebrand is going to be a party. And not and so to level set here, we're not talking about a gala invite only government official under the table who's who of the town coming. This is almost like block party style.
Yeah.
Show up, have a good time. So why a party as like the first thing you think of for a rebrand?
Well, I think South Louisiana is pretty well known for being a place that likes to party. And
What?
I think it's more than that. Like, just culturally, we like to celebrate. So we love to get together and be a part of something big, exciting. We love good hype. And I think generally speaking, the city where our main location is actually was the happiest city in America for several years, Lafayette, Louisiana. And I think it's because people here really like to invest in their community and see great things happen and be a part of things as what would seemingly be as mundane as a college changing its brand. They're really into it. So it just felt right. It felt like we were leaning into our geography, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And it felt like something we could gift to the community. We could remind them that they've been a part of the college for its existence and they're part of its future. And so why not come and celebrate with us?
So when you're thinking about, because you've got two sides of a coin here, right? You have the showing up with the new brands and creative and visual and all those things, but then you also have the way of putting together a party that is going to both attract folks but also be valuable. What was kind of like your game plan behind strategizing the best rebrand party that one could think of in Louisiana?
So it wasn't my first party. So that's important.
What?
No.
And this was not your first party?
Anne likes to party. She likes to party. No, really, honestly. So my department, my communications and marketing department, is really a team of expert communicators. I think that's where we gravitate towards. That's where we come from. We have background in community and economic development, background in journalism and media. And so we really see ourselves as like tastemakers. We see ourselves as influencers. The role that we have been given with enrollment marketing and external communications and the like fit. But there's another big component there, I think, that we bring to the table, and it's making people care about things. None of us have a higher ed background. We all came into this with experience out in the community doing different things. Two of my employees actually both worked at tourism bureaus. So they were accustomed to bringing the fun, right? And my background is economic development, and my job is to make headlines. As we began talking about how to roll this brand forward, something that just kept coming to mind is like, we need to get people to care about this.
Yeah.
They cared about it and participated very actively in the rebranding process, which was super important to us, is having those internal and external stakeholders participate. And what better way to thank them than to bring them in on the reveal? But who wants to go to a press conference, right? Or
Me, I love press conferences. I love standing there for 30 minutes as someone reads off of a script and the presentation is behind them and they're just reading that's not how you want to spend a Thursday afternoon.
As much as I enjoy it, I kept thinking about business and industry leaders, right? And community partners and elected officials and parents, right? Students and instructors. We wanted them to feel like this rollout was for them too. So not only was the brand for them, and we're our region's community college, but we wanted them to be a part of the process, all the way through to, and there's really no end, but all the way through to that like climax where they got to actually see all the work that had been put in come to life. And I think, everybody in a small town has felt this. We have a pretty good sized region of about 600,000 people, and we serve our students at 9 campuses in that region. But we all have that little small town feel where like you have that FOMO, right? You have that fear of missing out on something exciting happening in your backyard. And so the whole time we planned the brand rollout, we always kept in mind, how do we leverage that feeling of FOMO that people will inevitably have to our advantage? And a party just kind of floated to the top as a way to do that and make it feel less like it was a college thing and more of a community thing. And I think that subtle shift really made a big difference.
And what I love most about what you said about the team is it sounds like you have such a diverse set of backgrounds that people were pulling in from past industries to make this successful. So having someone from tourism or having someone that has a party planning background or big events and PR background was actually a really big strength, because you're like, in tourism land, we know what people expect from a party. We know how this needs to show up. And speaking of what we need for parties, you cannot have a party without invitations. And so really what I thought was another cool tactic within this kind of party setting was SoLAcc really used, and other marketers who are getting ready to listen to this, hold on to your seats. This is going to be a crazy one. An external launch timeline. You heard me correctly. They put their launch timeline out into the public. so
scary, right?
It is so scary. And again, that is not something I don't think I've ever gotten clearance or someone said, hey, let's put our timeline external for people to track where we are in this progress. Because there's so much that can go wrong. And it's just wild times, like that vulnerability of putting that timeline external. Tell us what the thinking behind the external timeline was, and even things like if timing was going to change, or if location was going to change, or if themes or whatever were going to change. how did you all, one, get the clearance to share something that normally, folks are like, we need to keep this internal, launch time and dates and locations internal, and then also how you kind of what the team structure looked like when you needed to potentially update that timeline as things progress with the rebrand?
Well, you're right. I feel everyone cringing as they listen, going like, "Oh, I can't believe you publicized it." So we
Very.
were very, very strategic about this, right? So first of all the brands I love, the thing I love them most about them is, one, they get me. So they get my thought process, my logic, what I like, what I don't like. And I love that they keep me on my toes with like drops. I love a good drop. I love like a kind of periodic touch point that is, in the words of someone who is ringing in my ears right now, that was a part of our rebranding process. It was surprise and delight, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to surprise and delight your audience? And in this case, our audience, we thought, extended beyond the college family or what you would typically think of as a college family. And it really introduced the idea that, again, we are our community's college. We are a community college. Community is in our name. We say it a bunch of different ways. This, regardless of whether or not you have an affiliation with us, you will interact with, someone providing you a service, someone you employ, your child, your neighbor, your best friend, someone is impacted by a community college. Even your day-to-day experience is impacted by that. And so we wanted to remind people of that by making them part. So it was inclusively exclusive, right? So if you wanted to come and you wanted to follow along, you could.
Yeah.
So that was the inclusive part, that like we wanted the community to feel like this was part of, they were part of the process. But then we also did a lot of work on the back end, in addition to the public kind of countdown piece, of strategically inviting partners, folks that maybe have been out of touch with the college for a while, or maybe they were at a decision point. Maybe they were a vendor who had been part of our growth along the way. Or like I said, prospective parents and students, high school counselors, the list goes on and on and on. Not to mention everyone who, is anyone in our community that we knew when they talk, people listen, right? And so we wanted them to be we wanted to be the subject of what they were talking about. And so we started with a very, very broad timeline. I'll be very honest,
Yeah.
phase-based, multi-month kind of timeline that we put on a very public page on our website. We've created a
Mhm.
brand page that was intended to track the transformation timeline for internal audiences and external. They could see where we were in the process, elements for them to engage. And so that page has since evolved, but in the early stages, we were in, here's a point where you can actually participate. You can weigh in, you can fill out a survey, you can join a focus group. And we did that again so we could remind them several parts of the process were happening. We were being good stewards of state dollars. We were being good stewards of their college. And we answered to them, to the public. And then as we got closer, we had to pick a date, right? And that's when it starts getting really hairy and really scary, because college marketers are extra. Let's be honest, we're extra. And we wanted,
Um, just a little.
we wanted
Just
people
a
to wake
tad.
up with the old brand and go to bed with the new brand. And
Mhm.
we wanted that transition to feel exciting, like a drop, right? And so during the actual brand reveal ceremony that like kind of kicked off the party is when all the transitions happen. So not only did our digital presence change during that announcement, but we also physically changed our environment while it was happening. So we escorted people into a room. The old branding was everywhere. And while they were, we call that a quick change, like while they were in there, we did
Yeah,
a scene change behind the scenes. And
like a
they
costume for
walked,
the new number.
wow, ta-da-da, very like jazz hands.
Just a little extra, just a little zhuzh.
Just a little bit. We call it lanya. It means a little bit extra. We had
Okay, I
them
love
walk out through a balloon arch that was not there when they walked in the new colors with the new acronym call letter, the SoLAcc, into a party filled with students, cheering, pom-poms, music playing, all the branded elements, a step and repeat, the retractable banners, t-shirts, swag to give away. They walked into the party. They had no choice but to party at that point, right? And then
Okay.
you don't want to be the pooper, you want to be the mover, the shaker, the influencer, right? So we created something they couldn't, if they came, if they were going to come, and getting them there was obviously a challenge. If they were going to get there, we were going to make it something special. And, I know you and I have talked offline about this. The result was that, you get 300 people in a room who immediately become a PR team, who want to share everything. They want to take behind the scenes photos. They want to let people know they were there. And I think that, inclusive exclusivity, I think we're going to coin that, turned out to be a tactic we didn't expect to deploy, but one that was really, really effective for us.
And when I'm using kind of like the term rebrand, you're
Yeah.
using the word transformation.
We are.
Is that an intentional choice? What's the language there? I want to make sure I'm using the right semantics.
Absolutely.
And why you all refer to it as a brand transformation versus someone else may call it rebrand in another university.
Absolutely. I've been known to call it our quinceañera, which,
I love that.
So my team came in about 3 years ago, all around the same time. The previous team had left for different reasons over like a series of time. And rather than refilling those positions one by one, my vice chancellor, who's, essentially a vice president of our college, hired me to build the team, right? And so I came in fresh-faced, not really knowing what was going on, seeing a brand, hearing a brand that for me as a community member did not align with my perception of the college. And as we embarked very early on in the process, it was very clear to us that we didn't need to change who we were. We just needed to change how we talked about ourselves. And that for what we would say was the first time in the history of the college, we were actually aligning our brand with who we were rather than aligning who we were with our brand. And so it felt more like a coming of age. It really felt like we were now in this self-discovery moment in time where we finally figured out who we were, what our differentiators were, what our positioning was. And now we had permission. We gave ourselves permission. And I use that word all the time. I give people permission to feel good about who we are and to lean into who we are, even if it might not seem who we are today. It could be aspirational, or maybe it doesn't feel like how you should be talking about a college. Like, be unapologetically who we are. We are South Louisiana Community College. We are vibrant and approachable and tenacious and jovial, and all of these characteristics were who we were, and our brand didn't reflect that. And so we transformed much like a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. We didn't change fundamentally who we were. We just kind of grew into ourselves. And that just shift of transformation from rebrand to transformation was, I think, a really important part very early in the process, to kind of set the stage. And that gave our internal audience, our faculty and staff, people who had been with the college for a long time, it gave them a great deal of comfort. And they were the ones who embraced change more than anyone and really leaned into this blossomed vision of who the college was and who it could be. And they abandoned any creative aspects that came to them that looked safe. They were like, nope, absolutely no. We want to really take this opportunity to be who we are. So that transformation word was very intentional, and it played off. It paid dividends, honestly, because then we heard people referring to it that way, like, no, it's not a rebrand. We're transitioning. We're transitioning into, who we really want to be for the next phase of our life. And man, it added even more personal touch to the brands, so yes, big success there.
And to that point, I think what's really cool about it is like the party seems so fitting for that position. It's like we're having this really great transformation. We're becoming this not becoming even something new. You're just aligning who the university, or excuse me, who the college was already with who you inherently are. So the
Absolutely.
party is perfect because it truly aligns and has the energy and vibes that SoLAcc already had.
The vibes. So I'm so glad you said that. You know,
The vibes.
the vibes were so important to me and my team during this process. Like, we kept talking about the vibes and like, ooh, that's not the right vibes. Ooh, that's the right vibes. And I think, you know, again, our brand, as we transformed and realized and became okay, we're given permission to be okay with who we were. We realized that like the stuffy kind of corporate feel that we would traditionally use to even communicate, not just the brand, but also the tactics, weren't going to work anymore. You
Yeah.
know, we joke around here. We have, you know, we'll have people that say like, "Oh, I'm really good at like MLA, MA kind of editing. If you need some help," and I laugh, and I'm like, "Oh no, we don't do that here." You know, like you're not going to see traditional formatting in our
In
first.
LA,
You're not.
I don't know her.
I was like, "Meh, sorry, guys." I mean, I do have an English degree, but I always say like it wasn't for that. Like I was a lit major, right? So it's like I prefer to take things that might seem complicated to folks and put analyze them, right, and put them in a format that's easy to digest. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we're going with that. It was like not so much about even what we were communicating anymore. It was like the style, the vibe, the feel. I send emails to my press network, and you know, it's not uncommon for me to say something like, "Hey, friends," or "What up,
Yeah.
fam? Here is our news." And I'm not putting on airs. I'm not like trying to be something we're not. I mean, that's literally we're friends. We're a network now. We're a part of this together, and we try to be as authentic as possible. And you use the word vulnerable earlier, and that is chef's kiss. That is a word that I would say, you know, was handcuffed to us the whole time in the process. We have to be vulnerable. We have to be willing to look at ourselves honestly, warts and all. And then, you know, in the end, the warts became the thing we wanted to highlight most, you know, that
Yeah.
differentiator, the thing that made us special. And so, yeah, the party fit the vibe. We had one of our executive team members actually DJ the event. DJ Dr. P, you know, we put him on the mic and he DJ'd. Can I tell you how excited a member of our exec team was when I was like, "Hey, can you DJ the event?" And he was like, "Wait, what? Like, you don't want me to speak? You don't want?" No, I was like, "No, no, no, no. I want you to DJ." And we had
You did.
our chancellor, our president, he actually launched the brand with a selfie. So he had everybody behind him with all the branded things held up, and we gave them some options. They picked their favorite. He took a selfie, and that's how we launched our brand. We were like, we're not doing things the way people expect, but
Yeah.
we're doing things that fit who we are. And so that consistency and messaging and vibe, I think, has been why the brand rollout, even in, you know, we're a year in the making here, even after all this time, we still have the momentum and the excitement going.
Let's take a quick pause for a word from our sponsor. Southeast Missouri State University needed to launch more targeted campaigns faster, yet they were bogged down by manual campaign builds, slow approvals, and vendor overload. With Element 451, they eliminated 5 vendor tools and gained marketing superpowers in one platform. They saw a 13% increase in applications, processed applications within 2 days, and achieved 33 to 35% email open rates. The impact? Personalized, automated campaigns running at scale without the drag. Ready to turn your next campaign around in hours, not weeks? Try an agent today at element451.com/agents. Kind of to follow up there, I mean, obviously we have stakeholders
Hmm.
to answer to.
Yes, we do.
So I know that, success can't be measured on vibes alone. So
No.
how does one quantify the success of a brand party, and what would you say was like your biggest success metric as a result of like that brand party?
I think one of the most exciting things for us as communicators and like with our behind the scenes kind of hope and prayer that every one of our stakeholder groups was represented. So that was a big first step. So now, look, this is a tactics podcast, right? So I'm going to tell you, our tactic was to include them in the reveal, right? So I had my Senate faculty president, I had my SGA president, I had a member of our exec team, a member from faculty, a member from admissions, a member from the public, a member from our foundation board. They all had active roles in the physical revealing of the brand. And so they literally they had a role to show off a piece of the brand. And so one, getting the right people in the room, I think was important, which was Mark's success for one. That was check one. Two, having all the elements ready when that reveal happened. Check number two, and I mean, we're giggling, but I know that was the biggest, pressure point. Won't they meet the deadline? So that was a really huge piece. And then honestly, engagement across our social channels was huge. Impressions on every piece that we put out, clicks through to the website, time spent on our branding page, actual one-to-one responses to our brand reveal and our transformation reveal emails that went out from our executive team, the way the media responded, picked up, created coverage, wrote their own coverage. And then, in a very kind of more manual process on the brand reputation piece is like, I think I looked at every single comment section of every single, article that was written, video that was put out, photos that were put out. I manually went through all of them very tediously. And the positivity, we use Meltwater for our evaluation tool too as a listening device. And so all the positivity, very few neutral and no negative responses to the brand reveal obviously was a big win for us. And then, we're still capturing dividends from that transformation as people continue to refer to us in the right way. They have included us at the right tables. So as a communications, not just marketing professional, as a communications professional, one of my goals is to get our chancellor and our leadership at the right tables. Since the brand reveal, our chancellor has served as the chair of the Lafayette Convention and Visitors Commission board. That's our regional tourism agency. He is now the incoming chair of our regional economic development organization. He serves on our citywide economic development board. Our people have been picked off, me, my vice chancellor, for local, regional, state, even national roles. So we're being included in conversations because we were very forthcoming with our process, very transparent, very inclusive to the community. And then we have shared our best practices with literally anybody who will listen, and we work with our partners across the state to make sure that they understand what they need to be successful, give them our playbooks, all that good stuff. And so I think just how we've moved from a influence to authority has been, man, it's hard to put a figure on it, but we're capturing that to demonstrate how successful that transformation has been.
I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier too that was really interesting from my perspective is the over 300 like individual PR agents that you all had, and you didn't have to ask. These people came to the party. You had everything ready to go. They walked away with this information to be a sounding board and amplifier for the brand. That is also very powerful to me because you threw such a great party. People didn't want to just go into the community afterwards and just talk about how great the party was. Those 300 community members are now all SoLAcc like influencers and creators, which I think is super cool.
Well, and like a lot of schools create some sort of ambassador program with either with existing students or stakeholders, faculty, staff, et cetera. We kind of amplified that, and the
I'd
way
say with 300
we did,
people.
we did the way that we really did that again, we talked about how we got them there, but once we were there, we armed them with what they needed to be able to talk eloquently about the brand, on brand, right? And so, in addition to them being part of the party, that group and our external relations list, so the people who weren't able to make it but would have made it had they been available, they were given talking points. They were given social graphics. They were given suggested posts. We armed our employees with better images for their social channels. We armed them with things that they could immediately share, incorporate into their own life, whether that was an email signature that had the new branding associated with it, new elements for their LinkedIn profile, for their, Instagram. And so I think, in
No
addition,
wonder, no wonder why you were concerned about whether or not the assets were going to be done. What asset didn't
we
you
needed
make?
to give them a toolkit, right? And then
Yeah.
my favorite, this might be common knowledge, but I still love it. And sometimes you just got to talk about the basics, right? At the party, we gave them, every single group, based on who they were, a piece of swag. And we gave them a piece of wearable swag. And I think that was important because, as a marketing professional, every time somebody wants to buy something to give away, whether it's admissions or an initiative, I always say, give them something to wear, to sport, to leave in their car that people can see, like, make them a billboard for me. And so giving them, whether it was a beautiful lapel pin with the new logo on it, or a shirt, or something that could immediately display on their digital presence or in their office, was really important to us. Is like,
Yeah.
give them something to show off with.
And I love the
And
fact that you took the extra step to think about what piece of swag made sense for the person.
yeah.
Especially as someone myself, I have really big hair. And as much as I would love to wear your hat, I
Yes.
cannot. So I'd rather have the lapel pin. So I love the fact that you all sat down and said, this person gets this person gets that.
We
And that just
did, and,
love that.
it's funny that you say that. Our student comms person is just like a delight. She is a young, exciting employee, but she's also a filmmaker. She, does documentaries, and she has big hair, and, she was very influential in the purchase of our last round of items. We did visors because everybody wants a hat, but they can't.
I could do a visor.
So
I
they
can
did
do a
visors.
visor.
Isn't
I
that
love that.
great? And to your
Yes.
point, it's the listening. We listen. We listen to them through the rebrand. Why would we stop listening when it was time to engage them? And so we kept asking them, and we continue to ask them, what do you want to see? What do you want? What kind of swag do you want? What kind of talking points? What kind of questions do you get? What do you need help answering? How can we transform a web page that you use into more friendly kind of material so that you can speak on our behalf? And that, just like that, keeping those lines of communication open have been so important. And then again, we built the buy-in already, so they're already bought in. We give them things to show it off. We kind of create this fine reputation for them to live up to as an advocate and as an ambassador for us by, hey, you heard it first, so help us tell people about it. And they took that charge very seriously, and then they went out and did it. And so, yeah, that's we had that spike not only in our PR and brand recognition, but we also saw it in enrollment, because instead of talking about college from a collegiate perspective of a place of higher education, we leaned into who we were and started telling them who we were and inviting them to be a part of our family if they aligned with us. And it was okay if they didn't. And I
Mhm.
think that, just, again, that realness, that authenticity of saying, like, this is who we are. If this is not you, that's cool. Here's our friends down the street. They can provide you with a really great education. And, like, we're here if you need us. And just that little shift, man, it's so powerful. And you don't realize it until you see it play out.
You said you're about a year and a half into the transformation of the brand. How does one keep the party going?
I love that you said that, because, I think our brand, if people haven't seen it, they can check out our website and check out our brand page. It is very vibrant. It is very fun. It lends itself to a lot of movement and excitement. So the parties have continued. We have had several other parties. We turn every enrollment and recruitment event, every student kind of oriented event into an opportunity for them to bring their friends and family. We do have such a wide, diverse group of students from all different kind of backgrounds, ages, and all that kind of stuff. We want it to feel like a place that they can bring their people, whatever their people look like, even if they're their kids, if they're grandparents, whatever, their business colleagues, whoever it is, we want them to feel like they can be part of that college. And then we were really strategic about other elements that we were going to roll out. So we are still rolling out fun things. After the rebrand, we never had a mascot. And so we decided we were going to do the same process with a mascot. Listen, get input from the community, get input from our faculty and staff. We ultimately, believe it or not, I sat on my hands and I let our student leaders pick the mascot. I want to control
vulnerability.
but we wanted them to tell us what felt right, what they wanted to be for the rest of their life. They were forever going to be this thing, right? I'm a Raging Cajun. I went to UL Lafayette, and I'm a Raging Cajun for life. I wanted people to feel something, and so they did. They ended up selecting the mascot. It's an owl. They ended up selecting the name of the mascot. The name of the mascot is SoLAcc, which is a French word for sun. The French culture is Cajun and Creole culture all has a basis in French here in the French language. And so having a French word as the name of our mascot that is nocturnal, but it's a word that means sun, was just kind of the juxtaposition we needed to
layers,
right?
layers.
Right? So our students identify with like the night owl, the wisdom, the curiosity of an owl, but also the vibrancy of the sun and like what was next and like hope and positivity. And they picked it. They picked the name and they're hitting it, right? So we knew the bear brand already resonated with them. And then we were able to bring that to life with our colors. And so we announced the selection of our mascot in the fall. This spring, we showed off the look of the mascot. We took that charge and said, we're going to create it for you. So we created that. That was announced. The fall event was Trunk or Treat Fall Fest, live band. We had Clifton Chenier, Grammy Award winner, actually play the event. And then in the spring, we did our student showcase and our preview day. That's where we unveiled the mascot look. And then actually just last week for our convocation, we revealed a new version of our mascot, a stylized version that's more of a mascot mark. It's a little sophisticated version of our character. And we started revealing new assets, new swag. We started putting it out in the community. So I think in the next month or so, we'll be revealing our mascot costume. And so you see a trend here. We get people in, we get them to participate, we listen to what they say, we produce something, and then we show them. And then we listen to what they say, produce something, and show them. And that kind of engagement tactic of including them from the beginning and including them on the back end creates that buy-in that we talked about that we all are so hungry for. We're all hungry for those engagement points. And this has been it. This works for us. So I think, leaning into who we are, where we are, and the brand has really kind of kept the party going. And, I literally called my employee on the way to work this morning and I was like, so what's next? I'm like, we have everything planned for the mascot review. I'm like, well, what's our next big thing? And I think as long as you keep that mindset going, like never be satisfied with where we are and we're always growing and reflecting what the community and our students need, then it will stay exciting. At least that's what I'm telling myself. That's my hope. You can have me on in a couple years and we'll see if that materializes. But I think it's working. I think it's working for us.
Well, you all heard it here, right? One, I want to thank Anne for joining us today and teaching us how we can party through a brand transformation.
Love it.
And then two, clearly now that we have a new mascot, we all are expecting invites to her birthday party next year because we know you're going to do a party. So we'll be waiting for our invites.
I can't tell you because, for fear that my colleagues across the state are listening to this episode, I can't exactly tell you how we're going to reveal the mascot, but we have a really, really big fun thing planned. Again, super on brand, super fun. I'll report back to you. You can share with your listeners on your socials. But I mean, again, that's my advice is like, keep it fun, keep it on brand, keep it authentic, be who you are, listen to your people. And I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with a party. So just keep it fun. Keep it fun.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. We appreciate those insights. And as always, to our listeners out there, keep walking the walk and talking the tactics. Thanks for listening to Talking Tactics. If you want to try out the tactics you heard on today's show, you get a full 10 from me. And I would love to hear about how you made them your own. You can find me by searching Safania, Safaniya, on LinkedIn. There's not many Safanias on there, so you'll be able to see me. And if you're enjoying Talking Tactics, please rate and review the show. The overachiever in me needs your feedback, and I'll certainly use it for confirmation or, optimization, depending on the review. And finally, if you just can't get enough great podcasts, the Enrollify Podcast Network delivers with an amazing selection of other marketing and admissions-based podcasts just for you. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com. See you next time.